They say love thy neighbor, but that's hard to do when you realize the person living just a few feet away from you isn't who they say they are. We trust our homes to be our sanctuaries, but sometimes the danger isn't a stranger lurking in the dark alley. Sometimes it's the person waving at you from the driveway next door. Here are 3 very scary, true neighbor horror stories that will make you think twice before borrowing a cup of sugar.
Story 1. The Thin Walls. So, this happened about 2 years ago. I had just moved into a duplex on the outskirts of Chicago. It was a decent place, cheap rent, and the neighborhood seemed quiet enough. The way the duplex was set up, my living room shared a wall with the neighbor's living room, and my bedroom shared a wall with their bedroom. The landlord told me an older guy lived next door. Let's call him Greg. He said Greg kept to himself, didn't make noise, the perfect neighbor. And for the first month, that was true. I never saw him, never heard him. It was almost like the unit next door was empty. But then, the noises started. It began with scratching, just a light, rhythmic scratching coming from the other side of my bedroom wall, right near the headboard. It usually started around 2 a.m. Scritch, scritch, scritch. At first, I thought it was a rat, or maybe his cat if he had one. I tried to ignore it. One night, about a week into the scratching, I woke up to a different sound. It was mumbling, low, guttural mumbling. I pressed my ear against the drywall. It sounded like a conversation, but only one person was speaking. I heard Greg say, clear as day, "She's sleeping now. Yeah, she looks peaceful." My blood ran cold. I'm a light sleeper and I froze. Was he on the phone? Who was he talking about? I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe he was watching TV. 2 nights later, I came home from work and felt off. You know that feeling when the air in a room feels disturbed? I looked around. Nothing was missing. My laptop was there, my TV was there, but my closet door, which I always keep shut because I have a weird thing about open closets, was cracked open about an inch. I checked the house. Nobody was there. I locked the deadbolt and put a chair under the knob, feeling stupid but scared. That night, the scratching came back, louder, aggressive. It wasn't scratching anymore, it was scraping, like metal on plaster. I banged on the wall. "Hey, keep it down!" Silence, absolute silence. Then, a soft voice, right against the wall where my head lay, whispered, "I can hear your heart beating." I shot out of bed, grabbed my phone, and ran to the living room. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I called the landlord. He sounded annoyed, but agreed to come check Greg's unit. I waited on the porch while the landlord knocked on Greg's door. No answer. He used the master key. I stood in the doorway as he walked in, and what I saw made me sick. Greg's unit was empty. No furniture, no TV, just a sleeping bag in the middle of the floor and piles of trash. But that wasn't the scary part. The landlord walked into the bedroom. He gasped. I walked in behind him. The wall shared with my bedroom had a hole cut into the drywall, about the size of a fist, right at eye level. But he had covered it with a poster on his side so I wouldn't see light coming through. Surrounding the hole were photos, dozens of them. Photos of me sleeping, photos of me watching TV, photos taken from inside my apartment. But the worst part? The landlord found a notebook next to the sleeping bag. It was a log of my schedule, and the last entry, written that very morning, said, "She knows. Tonight, I have to take her with me." Police were called, but Greg was gone. They found out he had made a copy of the landlord's key months ago. He had been coming into my apartment while I was at work just to watch me, smell my clothes, and stand over me while I napped. I moved out that same day. They never caught him. Sometimes, when I'm trying to sleep in my new place, I still hear that scratching sound, and I pray it's just a mouse.
Story 2. The Midnight Gardener. I grew up in a semi-rural area where the houses are spaced pretty far apart. We had about an acre of land, and our neighbor, Mr. Henderson, had about the same. Mr. Henderson was a widow in his 70s. He was the type of guy who was always working in his yard. Perfect lawn, perfect hedges. He seemed nice enough, always waved when I rode my bike past, but as he got older, his behavior started to shift. It was summer break, and I was 16, staying up late playing video games in the basement. My basement window looked directly out at the side yard that bordered Mr. Henderson's property. It was around 3 a.m. when I saw a flashlight beam sweep across the window. I turned off the lights in the basement and peeked out. It was Mr. Henderson. He was in his backyard, digging. Now, gardening at night is weird, but not illegal. I watched him for a bit. He was digging frantically, like he was in a rush. Then he stopped. He stood perfectly still, leaning on the shovel. Then, slowly, he turned his head, not his body, just his head. He looked directly at my basement window. It was pitch black in my room. There was no way he could see me, but he stared right at me for a solid minute. Then he smiled, a wide, toothless grin that looked unnatural in the pale moonlight. He brought a finger to his lips in a shh motion. I freaked out and closed the blinds. I told my dad the next morning, but he laughed it off. He's old, probably just confused. Don't worry about it. A few nights later, my parents went out for an anniversary dinner, leaving me home alone. It was storming, bad, thunder, heavy rain. The power flickered and then went out completely. I was in the kitchen searching for candles when I saw it. Through the sliding glass door to the backyard, a face was pressed against the glass. It was Mr. Henderson, but he wasn't smiling anymore. His face was twisted in rage. He was soaking wet, wearing nothing but a dirty undershirt and boxers. He was holding something heavy in his hand, a large rock. Bam! He smashed the rock against the glass. The safety glass spiderwebbed but didn't shatter. I screamed and scrambled backward. Bam! He hit it again. "Let me in!" he screamed. His voice didn't sound like an old man's voice. It sounded animalistic. "I need to plant the seeds! Let me in!" I ran upstairs and locked myself in the bathroom, dialing 911 with shaking hands. I could hear the glass finally shatter downstairs. I heard wet, heavy footsteps crunching on the broken glass. "Where are you hiding, little weed?" he yelled from the kitchen. I heard him coming up the stairs. Thump, thump, thump. The operator told me officers were 2 minutes away. The footsteps stopped right outside the bathroom door. I saw the doorknob slowly turn. I braced my back against the door, sobbing quietly. Then the turning stopped. I heard heavy breathing on the other side. "I know you're in there," he whispered. Suddenly, sirens wailed in the distance. Blue and red lights flashed through the bathroom window. I heard Mr. Henderson run back down the stairs and out the back door. The police found him in his yard, digging another hole in the pouring rain. They tackled him and took him away. When they investigated his garden, they didn't find bodies, thankfully, but they found boxes. Dozens of metal boxes buried all over the yard. Inside them were knives, ropes, and detailed maps of all the neighbors' houses, including ours. He had marked entry points in red ink. The backsliding door was circled 3 times. He was institutionalized for severe dementia and violent psychosis. But the scariest part? The police told my parents that based on the mud tracks in our house, he had been inside many times while we were all asleep.
Story 3. The View from the Window. I live in a small apartment complex on the 3rd floor. Across from my building is another identical building. The way the complex is designed, my bedroom window looks directly across an alleyway into the window of the apartment opposite mine. It's maybe only 20 feet of distance. For the longest time, the unit across from me was empty, but about 3 months ago, a man moved in. He was tall, always wore a hoodie, and kept his blinds drawn 24/7.
I didn't think much of it until I started noticing the blinds moving. I'd be sitting at my desk doing homework, and out of the corner of my eye, I'd see a slit open in his blinds, just enough for an eye. He would watch me, sometimes for hours. I was creeped out, so I bought blackout curtains and started keeping them closed. Out of sight, out of mind, right? One Tuesday, I came home early from work, sick. It was about 1 p.m., bright daylight. I walked into my bedroom and realized I had left my curtains open that morning. I went to close them and instinctively looked across the alley. The man was there, but he wasn't behind the blinds. He was standing on his balcony, leaning over the railing, staring directly at my window. He was holding a pair of binoculars. When he saw me, he didn't look away. He didn't look embarrassed. He slowly lowered the binoculars and waved. A slow, stiff wave. I yanked the curtains shut. I felt sick. I called the leasing office to complain, but they said unless he was threatening me, they couldn't do much. That night, around 3 a.m., I woke up to a sound. It sounded like tapping. Tap, tap, tap. It was coming from the window. Now, remember, I'm on the 3rd floor. There is no balcony outside my window, just a sheer drop to the concrete alley below. I lay there frozen, thinking I was dreaming. Tap, tap, tap. It was distinct. Someone was tapping on the glass. I slowly pulled the covers down and looked at the window. The blackout curtains were glowing slightly from the streetlights outside. I saw a silhouette. It looked like a hand pressing against the glass. I grabbed a baseball bat I keep under the bed and ripped the curtains open, screaming, hoping to scare whatever bird or animal was there. But it wasn't an animal. It was the neighbor. He had bridged the gap between our buildings using a wooden plank, a long, thin construction plank that looked like it could snap at any second. He was standing on this plank 3 stories up, balanced precariously between his balcony and my windowsill. His face was pressed against my glass. His eyes were wide, unblinking, and bloodshot. He was mouthing words to me. "Let me in." I screamed louder than I ever have in my life. The scream must have startled him, or maybe he lost his balance. He slipped. I watched him fall. He didn't scream, he just fell silently into the darkness of the alley. I called 911, shaking so bad I dropped the phone twice. By the time the police and ambulance arrived, I looked down into the alley. The body was gone. There was a pool of blood, a lot of it, but no body. The police raided his apartment. It was filled with disturbing things, wigs, makeup, and a collection of keys. But on his wall, facing my window, he had painted a message in red paint. "I want your life." They found him 2 days later in a hospital 3 towns over. He had broken both legs and shattered his pelvis, yet he had managed to drag himself to a car and drive away. I moved back in with my parents immediately. I don't live in apartments anymore, and I never, ever leave my curtains open at night.
Those were 3 true stories involving neighbors that turned out to be monsters. It makes you wonder, do you really know who is sleeping on the other side of your wall tonight? Which story scared you the most? Comment below and subscribe for more true horror stories. Stay safe and lock your doors.